My name is Patty, and I'm a winter cyclist. You're supposed to say, hello, Patty. Hello, Patty. After all, isn't this a support group for winter cycling addicts? It began slowly, I confess. My life was going perfectly fine. I had a job with free parking and a car that was kind of reliable. And I spent 15 hours a week driving to work and then driving my kids to and from dance. That's not counting the hours spent running short errands because, you know, driving a car to the grocery store just around the corner doesn't really count, does it? I justified all that time by saying things like, I love audiobooks, or I get my kids' undivided attention. When the truth was that I was spending 3 hours a day in a car, wondering why I was feeling so stressed and overwhelmed all the time. My bad. I apologize. I didn't know you people existed. I was living a life that I didn't know was optional. But that all began to change when at 48, I became an empty nester, and I moved to a more walkable neighborhood. I was so close to work that I decided it was close enough that I could just ride my bike there. Oh no, don't get ahead of yourselves. I was a fair weather cyclist. Puddles on the road? Slight chance of rain? No, I don't think so. But I just loved the way I felt when I rode my bike, and I started looking for new routes to explore on my own after work or with friends. The 10-minute ride to work all of a sudden just wasn't enough. That year when fall came, I did like the other normals, and I put my bike away for the season. Back to the car, back to the long, dark winter. For those of you who don't know, but now you do, I'm Brazilian, and I moved to Winnipeg when I was 17 years old and never quite got used to the long, cold, dark winters. My idea of going outside in winter was to dress like this, to walk 2 blocks to get into my car. I also dressed like this to walk 20 steps to my garage to get into my car. I hated being cold, and I hated the way I felt in winter. I retreated inside with my knitting as much as possible and longed for the warmth of spring and summer. I never in a million years could predict what was about to happen to me. In the early spring, my partner Ian and I, that's him, wave, moved a little further away, and I got a new job right downtown. My commute went from 10 to 45 minutes, and I was going to be able to call myself a real bike commuter. But not until the puddles dried out. No siree. Now here's the thing. Something inside me was slowly changing. I was riding my bike so much that I really didn't want to get back into my car. I dreaded the long drive to see my parents, and I found myself choosing my bike for any errand that I could. This time when fall came, I was really dreading putting my bike away. So Ian, who's always my biggest cheerleader, said casually, why don't you just keep riding and see how it goes? We'll get you some warm clothes, and really, who knows when the snow will come. He suggested I join the local cycling Discord group and asked them for tips and tricks. I was overwhelmed by the responses I got on there and how many of these guys were willing to help me out, lend me equipment, and let me try their bikes. I felt so supported. Who were these guys, and why were they being so nice to a complete stranger? I also started researching YouTube about women who bike commuted in winter, and there wasn't a lot out there, especially for women my age. But there was this one guy, a Canadian guy, who had a ton of videos on winter cycling. His name is Tom, and his channel was called Shifter. So not a woman my age, but his approach was simple and casual. His philosophy and methodology seemed easy to follow, and after making Ian watch every single video with me, I was ready to try this thing. When the snow fell, I decided to take a little ride in my neighborhood to my local winners, of course, because when all else fails, there's always winners. And it's kind of fun. Here's Nora's first winter ride. Nora's my bike, my first bike. Well, not first, but you get the picture. Here's Nora, no winter tires, no special accessories yet. This was just a little test ride to see if I could do it. I did my first snow ride to work the next day with no winter tires, too many layers, and a ton of determination. As I walked into the office, I did that walk that only winter cyclists know. Helmet still on, high vis, winter boots, and a puffed up chest like, you're the shit. People think you're doing that on purpose, but you just can't help it. I was so damn proud of myself. I couldn't believe I had really done it. Me, a 49-year-old Brazilian woman. My commute of 40 minutes in the summer turned to an hour and a half in winter because of the winds and snow drifts. And no matter what I did, I would always be so cold to start and sweaty by the time I got to work, like really sweaty. Wash the hair in the bathroom sink sweaty. So in an attempt to find out more about what people did, how people did this all over the world, I did as nature intended and took to Twitter, or X. I asked a few questions one day to my 5 followers and asked Ian, who has a ton of followers, to share with his followers. And here's the questions. Where are you located? How long is your ride? Do you have to detour in winter? Biggest hurdle and favorite accessory. I needed to know because I was facing all of these things in my own commute. And my Twitter feed blew up. I got hundreds of replies, retweets, and followers overnight. Check this out. First one to answer me. It's like I opened a door into a world I didn't know existed. People were telling me what tricks to try, and the locals were offering me route advice. Of course, there's always some Dutch person humble bragging about how busy their bike paths are. It was a thing of beauty, but it wasn't all fun and games. There were mornings when the winds were howling, the snow had just fallen, and I knew that my commute would be a serious battle. For real, this is my everyday commute. Check this out right after a snowfall. That is some other person who had, yeah, no, it wasn't mine yet. The thing is, and you know this, the damage was already done. I was ruined. How could I go back to taking the bus, or even worse, driving? I knew my limits, so I decided it was time to see what e-bikes were all about. Time to go back to YouTube. And again, you guessed it, not a whole lot of e-bike Canadian type winter cyclists, and especially not a whole lot of women. This is what I found. So we did the best research we could and ordered an e-bike for me. I wanted something fairly inexpensive just so I could see if it helped and if it could handle our winters. We got this little Rad Expand 5 folding e-bike, and the day it arrived, we went for a ride just around our neighborhood. Me on the e-bike, her name is Raquel, and Ian took Nora. And when in his first words, once he finally caught up to me, were, "Oh no, I'm gonna need one of these." My rides to work were instantly transformed. I couldn't believe how easy that became. Yes, it was cold, but it became easier to dress for the cold because I wasn't overheating. My decisions in the morning were also easier because I no longer cared about how wind speeds or even snow drifts. It was such a life-changing experience that we decided we should document it, and maybe it could help other people, especially women, become winter cyclists. And thus, our little YouTube channel was born. We're gonna cringe together, okay? Let's watch this thing. Seems like in the fall of 2022, everyone started really talking about e-bikes.
But I was too busy commuting to work on my regular bike, and I wanted to see just how far into the winter season I could ride. Which doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but I live in Winnipeg, the coldest populated city in the world. And I'm from Brazil, the land of sandy beaches and tropical rainforests. Yes, I've been riding for as long as I can remember. Things were going well. As winter progressed and the temperatures dropped, I kept experimenting with my layers. But on the coldest day that I rode, it was -25, and I was both freezing cold and a hot, sweaty mess at the same time. And I said, something has to change.
And it was right then and there that I realized I wanted an e-bike.
So, come along with me as I ride my e-bike through my first winter.
I was so lucky. Ian is so talented with his video skills, so thank you. If you check it out, you see that I documented my getting dressed process and my lessons learned. I interviewed people I met along the way and crowdsourced some winter e-bike tips. It's been a lot of fun, and who knows where it'll go. I kind of became a bit of a local celebrity because the winter cycling community is super small and tight-knit. And because I was posting a lot of videos, people kind of knew me and recognized my yellow windbreaker in my bike. I'd often get people saying, "Hi, Patty," when I had no idea who they were. Smile and wave. We joined the board of Bike Winnipeg, our local advocacy group, because there's no faster way to feel neglected by your city than to ride your bike in winter. You guys don't know what that's like. We've done so much advocacy work in the past year, made so many friends, sold one vehicle, and as Ian says, lived twice as much life. I also got to host this Winter Cycling 101 YouTube live stream with these awesome people on actually right around the 1-year anniversary of doing my first snow ride. So it's pretty awesome. I could never have imagined that. As a couple, our lives are so much richer on our bikes as we ride together absolutely everywhere. Distance and weather are never a factor. It's hard to believe that this whole thing only started a year ago. A year ago, on my birthday-ish, March 10, mark your calendars, I love my birthday. After just a few weeks of winter cycling and starting our YouTube channel, I wanted to celebrate turning 50 by riding 50 kilometers in winter conditions. March is still winter in Winnipeg. And raise funds for Harvest Manitoba, our local food bank. There was only 3 of us doing the ride, Ian and I, and Andrew, whom we just met once before, and who took the day off work to ride with us. We live streamed from our stops along the way and raised $800 for the charity. Thank you. It was such a perfect way to celebrate 50 and to put a pin on this remarkable winter. At the end of the ride, we met up with friends at the Forks, our one tourist destination, to have drinks and celebrate. When we were leaving, unlocking our bikes around 10:30 p.m., this guy walked by and said, "What, did you ride your bikes to go ice skating?" And as I turned to give him a piece of my mind, I saw none other than Tom frickin' Babin. Kid you not. I could have cried. I thought of all that he had encouraged me to do and be without ever having met. I thought of my journey as I found the strength to overcome some of my biggest obstacles. I thought of how much of our lives had changed since I first watched those videos of his. And there he was, like a really cool birthday surprise. In these pictures, you can see my new e-bike. She is a Tough Hill e-bike from Calgary. She is incredible, and her name is Taylor Swift. I said what I said. I talk a lot about bikes. Whenever we leave the house to meet up with non-bike people, Ian always has to remind me to dial down the bike talk. My kids, not bike people, have told me that they want to give me a bike jar, like a swear jar, but when I talk about bikes. Joke's on them, because when I fill it up, I'm gonna get them some e-bikes. And they're right. Maybe I talk about bikes too much, but I can't help it. My bike brings me so much joy. I won't shut up about it. This is only my second winter, and my confidence is building. Every obstacle I face is a lesson I've already prepared for, and I no longer dread winter. That alone is such a huge victory. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the most important thing on my journey, my real secret sauce. The absolute must-have on a journey like this one. The person who's my cheerleader, my biggest fan, and my shoulder to cry on. The one who always believed I had it in me and who rides beside me even on the coldest days. The one whose creativity inspires me and drives me to reach higher and be better, and who brings me real joy right along with my morning coffee. Here he is, always up for an adventure, always coming up with an idea for videos and places to explore. And as I was preparing for this presentation, I thought about what winter cycling did for me. And the only way I can think of it is to talk about faith. Just as faith isn't something you can prove to someone, and it's not something you can touch, that effect that riding your bike in winter has on your life happens inside of you, and you can only understand it when you experience it. Thank you very much.